Hello, YouTube. So I'm going to try and make a recording here quick. And hopefully I can do it. But, I believe the reason that people cannot learn C++ is because they're not being taught in the context of systems and or things they went to actually create. Now, I'm not telling people to go out and make entire systems for people. I'm saying in the context of a system, teach that. Like Void here. Now, because the reason I believe I'm right on this is because I've been learning by systems and recreating the same systems that the AI has given or close to it. And I've realized every system has a basic set of rules and parameters, basically. Take level system. Or, well, no, let's go with an easier one. Let's go with a little easier one. Health. You will always have current HP or current health. You always have max HP or any of that, right? Always the basic stuff. I know that's a little vague, sorry. Just took a drink. But basically, you would have your current HP or health. You would have your max HP or health. And then you would have, it'll say it in here, a function that says, is dead, which would be a bool function, but this is talking about void, so. Alright, let's start reading this. Yeah. Void basically means no value. In an RPG code base, it usually means this function forms an action but does not return data. Think of it like this. Game design, return value function, ask a question, get an answer. Void, do something in the game world. What void means in an RPG example. And here it shows, equip item, player reference, player, item reference, item. Then went down here, and this is something that I don't see talked about, is where we're passing in player, accessor, equipment, accessor, weapon, equal item. Instead of a return value, it's doing this. We're passing something in, basically. Unless I'm mistaking the word in there, but, I'm going to say it's passing in something. This function does something, equips an item, but it does not return anything. Game logic, equip the sword. Result, player now has sword equipped. Value, return value, none. So void equal action, only function. RPG example was out void. Now compare int get player level, player reference player, return player dot level. This function answers a question. Game logic. What level is the player? Return value. 25. See, that makes sense because it's returning, not being passed in. Again, I might be wrong on, this stuff here. So, void, do an action, int, bool, float, etc. Return information. So int would return a number, bool would return true or false, float would return a decimal point number. Common RPG systems that use void. Many gameplay actions are void. Combat, deal damage. Entity, reference, target, int, damage. And here we are, was this again, with no return. And we're passing it in, I'm assuming, is what we're doing. Target, accessor, health, THs, minus equal damage. Action, modify health. Void, add item, inventory, yeah, that's how I pronounce inventory, reference, inv, item, inv, accessor item, accessor pushback, which right down here adds item into items, hence why we're passing it in with parentheses at the end there, into the array, because, item would be an array. I actually have, I asked the AI about arrays too, and yeah, that's what it basically told me there, so. And that's what I'm saying. By teaching the context of a system, I kind of sort of understand when, why, and how we use something instead of just use it. Again, I'm not telling people to run out and design full games and anything for nobody. What I'm saying is teach in the context of a video game, because people can learn more from that than they can from, well, here's a void function. It has no return type. Okay? That doesn't make sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense to me, somebody with autism and a bit of a learning issue, that doesn't make sense. But if you show me this makes more sense. So we got entity, reference, you guys can read this. And the vex tree is graphics programming. This is basically, move characters, it says. Okay, yep. But the vex tree is part of graphics programming. I'm not going to go into that. Systems in ECS are often void because they process entities. Void, movement system. Again, I don't really understand loops, so, you guys can understand this. Hopefully. I know I'm supposed to be trying to help teach, but I'm mostly just doing this video to try and explain, hey, I think people that know C++, if they taught in the context of systems, and not even just full games, just systems, and taught, hey, health has a basic rule set, and taught things like that, and taught people, hey, think like this. So health has a basic system of a current health, or HP. It has a bool is dead equal false function. It has let's see, current max, and obviously some if and logic, which would be probably in your C++ of health. Your HPP would basically just be the definitions. So, which are just, that's a whole different topic for later. I'm not gonna go into teaching, when not to use void. Do not use void when the function should give information back. Example, and this is one I was talking about. Void is dead entity reference, E, return E, accessor health, less than equal 0. Wrong. And it's wrong because that should be bool. Yep, bool is dead. Okay, yep, there you go. Now game code can use it. If is dead, enemy, drop loot. Enemy. And yeah, the parentheses were passing in enemy. So. Design rule. Very important in large RPGs. And this is the other thing. When do we get taught when we pass in and when we don't pass in stuff? Because that's something else that's always kind of confused me. Is like right here where we have the enemy as a pass-in. So. And some things use parentheses, some use the box, some use curly braces. So, it's a lot of learning, and I think if taught by systems, I think people would actually comprehend how to learn C++. And that's where the AI is actually better for teaching, because people can, if they wind up with questions, instead of asking and praying that the YouTuber replies, they can just ask the AI. So, design rule, very important in large RPGs. Use this rule if void, if the function change game state, example, equip item, add EXP, apply damage, spawn enemy, play animation, return a value if the function queries game state, example, get health, get level, has item, is alive, calculate damage. Void was lambdas, RPG AI. Now, I don't really understand lambdas, so I'm not going to get too into this. So, you guys can read if you'd like. I'll just pause and kind of let you read. And if you need to pause the video, you can pause the video and, read it. Void pointers, advanced RPG engine stuff. I gotta get a drink. You might see void pointer data. This means pointer to unknown type. Game engines use this for generic systems like ECS storage or event buses. Example concept, component storage, void pointer, memory. But this is advanced engine level code, not normal gameplay code. Void and parameters. Sometimes you'll see void, update, void. Old C style, meaning this function takes no parameters. Okay, I guess we're passing in parameters when we use parentheses. So like back there where we're seeing is dead, we're passing in the parameter of enemy. Unless I'm understanding this wrong. Modern C++ usually just writes void update, which is what we'd see in a HPP. The void update, or the void is dead enemy, let me scroll up. Let me find it here. This one. And this is what we put, basically in that, I believe. But maybe I'm wrong, so. Yeah, here we go. Void attack. Entity. Yeah, see, there you'd have your is dead and your drop loot functions. We'd give it the parameters of target. So. Unless, again, I'm understanding this wrong, you can put in the comments nicely and explain why I'm wrong. And, I'm not asking anyone to teach me, but, any comments help me and or others to learn, so comments are welcome. Function, attack, void. Perform action. Calculate damage, int. Returns value, int. Is dead, bool. Returns fate, true or false. Drop loot, void. Perform action. Good RPG code pattern. Clean separation. Queries. Return values. Actions. Void functions. Example. Calculate damage. Int. Is dead. Bool. Deal damage. Void. Player hit effect. Void. Spawn loot. Void. Architecture. Insight. In large RPG engines, system mostly void. Gameplay queries. Return values. Events usually void. Void combat system scope operator update ECS reference ECS process, attacks, ECS, apply damage, ECS, is the parameters we're passing in, I'm guessing. All actions void. Best mental model. Void do something. Int bool etc ask something. If you'd like, see, we're at the end. And see, I think, personally, if people were taught in the context of what I just showed, and people would type some of this out and, show people different examples of how to use this in the context of a video game, I think people would actually learn, hey, this is how I can do this. And if they learn that a system has a basic set of rules and parameters and all that, I think personally people would learn C++ and any other language for that matter. But that's me. So, because it's just like, for a skill tree, they all have a basic rule set. And that's the thing you gotta think. Okay, so how do I want my skill tree to work? Do I want this to happen or that to happen? How do I want respec to happen? Where should this logic live? Stuff like that. Now I'm not going to get into the architecture stuff, but I think, personally, if taught by the ideas and context of a video game and by systems like this did, instead of just generic types like foobar and stuff, because for the longest time, I didn't even know the class, you'd type class, and then the name would be anything you want that class to be named. I thought it actually had to be named foo or bar. I did not know that it was actually just a generic name. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm saying with, I'm a beginner, so I think if more advanced took my information and tried to use it to teach, I think there's a potential that people would learn. So, you guys can write a comment and tell me if I'm right or wrong. You can subscribe if you'd like. It helps me out. Every like and subscribe I get. I know this was AI and all that, but I think that with a little bit of help and a little bit of learning by systems and by not just generic types, that people could actually start learning. And calculators, I think, are useless. Because the only time you're ever going to build a calculator and use that is when you're doing inventory or equipments. Or, you're doing other calculations in a game like how much mana does this player have? How much do I remove? Stuff like that. Basic calculations. You might do some multiplications and do, the XP curve and all that stuff. But again, I think this is going to be the end of the video because we're at 20 minutes and I don't want to go past 20 minutes on this topic. I think 20 minutes is a sweet spot for, videos and stuff so people don't start snoozing like I tend to. It's not that I find the stuff boring. I find it quite fascinating, but the way it's taught can be quite boring. And who wants to sit through a 2+ hour, video that basically doesn't really go over a lot of the, stuff as I feel. So, again, write a comment if you think I'm wrong or right, and, give me your 2 cents. And I try to read every comment and reply to them. Some may take me weeks. Some may take me longer, sadly. It's just because I get busy at times, and yeah. So, have a great day. Like, subscribe. Goodbye, YouTube.